that situational awareness. So what sort of initiatives are ongoing related to bringing the data and information together in a fused way, but then also providing appropriate information to the agent so their SA is increased as they're out there putting their lives on the line?
One of the things that we are working with now in the platform that we're using is tracking sign cutting and modeling system. And what that does is when an event takes place, automatically, when the agent calls in, hey, I've got a sign of 3 that I'm working, automatically that starts a track. Either geospatial track or geolocator track of where that agent is and what he's doing. And so what it does is it fills in the gaps, and then other technology can be used to assist him in that arena. And so they're doing it a lot, and it tracks what the movements are, what technology is utilized, and things can be used. Now, what we want to do, and that then transfers over when the agent makes an arrest, that transfers over to the E3 processing system so that it can be used to capture all of the event that took place.
But the agent is still predominantly getting information by voice is the point, right? I mean, is there any sort of requirement or something in the works for Blue Force tracking, again, some sort of iPad-like, wristwatch-like situational awareness for the agent? We had a friendly fire death in our sector, that just builds their situational awareness so they can see where's the good guys, where's the bad guys, what's going on. So it's not just the guys in the air-conditioned ops center that are seeing that.
Right, and what we know that that's a gap, and we're trying to do that. Some of that is gaps in communication and having access to systems that track that, like a down screen. We're using it in some areas for SUAS, for example. The agent has the ability to see with the SUAS sees, but as far as the ability to have something on them that can be used to track it, there's comms issues with that, and there's an expense. Blue Force tracking, of course, has to be negotiated with the union to try to get that as part of the picture.
So what you're saying is there's no requirement or technology development in its process or funded to specifically provide increased situational awareness to the agent on the ground? Like, I know you're talking about some ideas, but we don't actually have a program or a system or a requirement that's moving any of that forward right now?
Not that I know of, ma'am, to be honest with you.
Okay. Following up on the tactical UAVs, you talked about it. Can you give me a little update? Your testing in Arizona upcoming, where are you doing that?
Okay, so what we've done with the UAV is we worked with partnership with Air and Marine. Yep. We've got an MOU in place with the Federal Aviation Administration, so we can test those. We have bought a suite of different capabilities, one being the quadcopter that can be up in the air for about 30 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. The other is a Raven type where it can be longer distance for a longer time, and then the other one has got a 3-hour time span. We bought some of those, and now we want to test those in an operational testing environment in Arizona, in South Texas, and in Swanton, Vermont, coming up in September.
Okay, so can we follow up as to where you're doing that in Arizona? I might want to go out and check it out.
Absolutely.
Also, to go back on Ms. Barragon's line of questioning, are you considering the cybersecurity elements of that? If you're just off the shelves, can be great for quickly getting capabilities to the agents, but if they can be easily jammed or intercepted or taken over.
And that's part of it, and we're reaching out to industry and some of the things going on in Silicon Valley to help with the sensors and so forth.
Great, and I want to reiterate, I've brought it up several times, in southern Arizona, right near the border, we do have Cochise College with a very robust UAV training capability. They have been wanting to partner with you all on this tactical UAV issue. We've made some introductions. I think not everybody in the bureaucracy is talking to the right people, but we would love to follow up with that, especially during your testing and evaluation, so that you're not reinventing the wheel if there's training capabilities out there already.
Very good.
And you're back for this round, and Mr. Correa, you're up for another 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to get back to Ms. Gambler. Didn't quite understand your answer when I asked if CBP had the matrix necessary to assess the effectiveness of the existing border wall and possibly a proposed border wall. Do we have the matrix?
CBP does not currently have metrics in place to assess the contributions that existing fencing is making to border security efforts. That's what we reported on in our report on existing fencing earlier this year, and we recommended that CBP put in place those metrics to include using the existing data they have to be able to assess what contributions fencing is having to border security.
Thank you. Question to the panel, if I may. My prior life as chair of Select Committee in California in the Senate of California, Mexico, I took a number of tours of the border area, San Isidro, San Diego. I noticed the California Highway Patrol has a station there where I believe every semi-truck that comes through is checked for safety every quarter to make sure they're thoroughly, every truck that comes by is up to California Vehicle Code. Number two, every semi, believe, is checked for radiation, and they're also checked for other, possible issues. My question to you is, given that situation, that investment the state of California has made in assuring the safety of Californians, do you have that same relationship with the other border states in terms of coordinating, making sure you share information from California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas?
We'll tell you at all the ports of entry along the southwest border, it's very common to find the state authorities just outside our compound looking at the trucks for the roadworthiness, the safety issues, as you mentioned there. As for the radiation screening, that is a function that we perform within the ports of entry. Every truck, every passenger vehicle coming into the United States is first screened for radiation before it ever can leave the port. So we've been doing that since about 2002, and again, most people aren't aware of that activity that takes place. We do coordinate with the state transportation police outside those gates on different activities and things of that nature. So that is what you see in California is very common along the larger land border crossings along the Mexican border.
So I guess my question is, I assume you do communicate with local, state, and authorities in terms of coordinating your data to make sure if there's any patterns there, you actually can pick them up.
In terms of?
Patterns of possible illicit activity.
Patterns we do, again, and we are members of the various task forces that work along the southwest border where that information is shared in terms of the tactics, what we're finding, the trends and things of that nature. So I would argue that on the field operations side, and I'm sure on the Border Patrol side, communication with the state and local authorities along the border region is very strong.
Secretary Kelly has mentioned that right now coordination, cooperation with Mexican authorities is actually very good. Again, my prior life, I took a tour of the southern Mexican border. I noticed most of the vehicles coming into Mexico from south of Mexico were X-rayed. A lot of that data was then digitalized, sent to Mexico City, and I believe it was shared with Langley. So it added a whole layer of multi-layered defense. Is that relationship still there? Does it exist? Has it expanded? Tell me, how are we working with other partners, not only south of the border, but around the world, in terms of enhanced security? As Secretary Kelly has said, if those items get to the border, you've already kind of lost. You've got to interdict those illicit items before they actually get to the border.
Right. Well, I will tell you that within the Office of Field Operations, we have very strong partnerships at 52 seaports around the globe as part of our Container Security Initiative, where we identify high-risk shipments before they're headed this way. We have partnerships in Colombia, in Honduras, in Panama that are very effective in terms of the narcotics interdiction. The activities at the port of entry, I think in the last 3 years since I've been in this position, very much improved relationship with the Mexican authorities, to the point that in several locations in Arizona, we have Mexican customs that are in the U.S. conducting joint inspections with us as part of a unified cargo inspection process. Reduces some redundancies. It helps facilitate the lawful trade and travel. Been very, very effective within Arizona. So I can speak for the border, for the field operations. The relationship with Mexico is very strong, and defer to the chief on.
I'm running out of time, so very quickly, I would say it'd be good to create a matrix to assess how effective that relationship is in stopping and inspecting and being effective at the border. Thank you very much. I yield, Madam Chair.
Gentleman yields. Chair now recognizes Mr. Hurd for Texas for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman. And again, Mr. Luck, Mr. Owen, same question for both of y'all. Take a minute and a half. Describe, Mr. Luck, describe your dream tech scenario for the CBP of tomorrow.
My tech scenario would be having the right mixture of, based on the threat, having the right mixture of technology, and we can't do it alone. No piece of technology has ever made an apprehension that informs and talks to all of the other component pieces that we have within CBP. And so that information is shared immediately to all components and agents and officers who need it. That would be my dream scenario. We have systems out there that are standalone systems that we would need, that in my view, we need to have speak to one another and share that information with whatever piece of technology that is, so that we're not redundant in those efforts, and that we know exactly, we have the same situational awareness regarding regardless of who that operating entity is.
Good copy. And Mr. Luck, please correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like the existing technology that's being used, there's there's too much of an operating burden on the person using it. We need technology that is a little bit more user-friendly. We need to make sure that this is integrated, as you say, across the various elements, not just within a team, within a particular sector, but across sectors and even back at headquarters. And as Chairwoman McSally was saying, getting that information in the hands of the individual agent, whether they're in their vehicle, on foot, humping through Carrizo Cane, and that allows them to do only what they can do. The hardest part, the interdiction. In anything that I described, am I out of line?
No, sir. That's appropriate.
Good copy, and we're trying to get you some dinero to do all this, by the way, and that's why I get frustrated with all this talk about a wall, because $24.5 million a mile, that's a lot of money. You can deploy a lot of off-the-shelf technology to do what I just described for $500,000 a mile. And if we add this out to the additional 1,350 miles of the border that doesn't have fencing, that's $33 billion. I can use $32 billion of that for a lot of other things, like give y'all's folks more pay because for the hard work that they do. Give Mr. Michelini some more air assets to do what he does. And that's where we're trying to go with this idea of a smart wall that leverages technology to make sure the men and women in Border Patrol are doing their thing. Mr. Owen, same question to you.
Yes, sir. Well, the technology that really is the cornerstone of our interdiction activities in the ports of entry is the large-scale, non-intrusive inspection technology. What we need is technology that has the capability to keep that cargo flowing. Mm-hmm. On the passenger side, we have drive-through low-energy systems where the passengers, the travelers, can stay in the car as we scan the car safely for the presence of any contraband. Those have been a game changer for us in the passenger arena. What we have on the horizon and what we're working with our Science and Technology Directorate as well as some of the vendor manufacturers is a similar drive-through systems for cargo. The challenge we have with cargo trucks now is you generally have a single energy system. You have to take the driver out of the cab. You can't use a high energy system on the driver. That slows things down. So with those current systems, only about 7 trucks an hour can be scanned. The technology that's on the horizon that I really see as a game changer for our cargo inspections is a multi-energy system that you can ratchet down to a low energy version to scan the cab, and as the driver and the cab clears, you ratchet up the energy level to high energy to penetrate the cargo. That will allow the trucks to continue to keep moving, not have to come to a stop. We estimate 10 times as many inspections can be done an hour with that technology.
That's great.
So that is on the horizon. We're looking at several locations where we'll be deploying that, and I really see that as a game changer for us in terms of our interdiction efforts in cargo shipments.
Chairwoman, I think we should put that on the list. And my final question, and maybe it's for you, Mr. Luck or Ms. Gambler, how much money do we spend, in a year here to this date on tunnel detection?
I don't know how much money we spend. I know that we're working a lot with partners on most recent tunnel detection capability. It is a vulnerability and a threat that we need to really think seriously about. We're working with industry. We're certainly working with our partners from Israel to give us the latest and greatest, and we have an apparatus to kind of get that best technology.
And we're worried about tunnel detection under physical barriers like the existing fencing we have. Is that correct?
Yes, we are. And part of the plan for future fencing would be to put fiber optics in there to help with that.
Ms. Gambler?
And I would just add, I think we may have some data on that, and I would be happy to follow up with your office and provide what we have.
We will as well. Thank you all very much. Thank you for the indulgement.
Absolutely.
Madam Chairwoman.
Recognizes Mr. Rutherford for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am particularly drawn to the circle here, the apprehension life cycle, as you all call it, because I've often said the same thing about this wall concept, that a wall is not a barrier. It's just an impediment. And what we need is to provide you with the technology that you can detect, track, apprehend, and in a secure way these folks who are coming over the border. Let me ask, the technology, when we visited the southern border specifically, it seemed like as far as Fort Huachuca, they had pretty good integration of communications and intelligence going on. Further east of that, the Rio Grande Valley, there didn't seem to have been as much in the way of technology being applied. It almost looked like they ran out of money or something in this, or maybe it's just in the next phase. But it just didn't seem like the Rio Grande Valley was getting the attention that the other areas that we had observed had. Can Mr. Luck, can you speak to that, the needs specifically in the Rio Grande Valley?
Yes, sir. And you're right. We didn't have enough attention on the Rio Grande Valley because the traffic was coming through Arizona. And so our technology lay down, and these things take time. And some of these options take more time than others. We're trying to get Arizona under control. So now the focus is on the Rio Grande Valley. And so we're trying to bring technology in there, and we will be bringing technology in there in the way of remote video surveillance systems and our ability to do persistent surveillance. We do have the DoD reuse tactical aerostats there that have been very, very good. We have the help from our partners in Air and Marine with some of the systems and sensors that they have as far as flight hours. And now we're trying to concentrate and move into persistent surveillance technology and relocatable towers. That's what we want to move into RGV. We can do it quicker, and they have the sophisticated camera systems that'll give those agents more situational awareness. And in that area, as you know, the Carrizo Cane problem, we have to have height to be able to see into that. And so we're also testing different technologies that will maybe help us get more of a situational awareness in that Carrizo Cane, such as foliage penetrating radars and things of that nature, to try to test new things that helps us get that better picture. But that's what we're recognizing, that we need to have more technology in Rio Grande Valley.
And I believe there's a significant increase in the technology budget to help with that, correct?
Yes, and we thank this committee for that.
And let me ask, because another piece of the life cycle, as you call it, the apprehension phase of that takes boots on the ground.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just have to have boots on the ground. It's just that simple.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that we can do to help you all in that process, acquiring more boots for the ground, the training, the recruitment, all of that?
We're working very, very diligently with that. HRM has made a lot of advances, over 40 improvements in their pre-employment process. We're doing some things with waivers, with dedicated people that have proven their integrity, with waivers of the polygraph. So, and there's a robust.
Is that helping?
Yes, sir. And there's a robust effort towards recruitment right now.
Very good. Madam Chair, I'll yield back.
Thank you. Gentleman yields back. I'm going to do one more round if you don't mind. Great, thank you. Ms. Gamble, you talked about, in several hearings, we've talked about the starting to measure the use of technology in apprehensions in order to better understand the metrics of whether the technology is helping. Do we have any assessments? I mean, we've been talking about this for over a year since I've been the subcommittee chair. Do we have any assessments of how any of the technologies are assisting in the apprehensions, or do we not yet have enough time of doing that?
So in response to the recommendation that we made in our report on surveillance technologies from a few years ago, Chairwoman, CBP has provided us with one sample of how they've tried to look at metrics. And so we've been evaluating that, but we need to see them do it more systematically for across the border. And so in order to address a recommendation, we really need to see that CBP and Border Patrol are looking at this from a more systematic perspective.
Got it. Thanks. And I'm wondering, Mr. Luck, the deployment of IFTs and some of the other technology more recently in Arizona, is there any sort of assessments on that you could short-term assessments on the effectiveness of that? Obviously, you don't want correlation to equal causality because you don't know whether you're deterring activity or whether things are shifting for different reasons. But do you have any sort of feedback on how the IFTs and other technology are working in Arizona?
So the reports that I'm getting from the short time that they've been on live with the last towers in IFT in Douglas, the view sheds and the area that they can cover and the workability of those systems are functioning properly and is a great asset and a needed asset in those environments. MSCs, all of the RVSS, the refresh that we're doing periodically for the RVSS until we can get to the replacement is really working well in Arizona and other places as well.
Great. So that at this point, that's anecdotal, obviously, but I mean, it's good feedback from those that are out there in charge building their situation awareness. But it'd be helpful to figure out the metrics of the measurement, right, of the integration with the other systems. Is that fair, Ms. Gambler?
That's right, and we are happy to help provide feedback to CBP on that process as well as they're developing metrics. That's something that we've talked about and offered in the past.
Great. Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Ma'am, if I could just add on to the status of one of the recommendations from the GAO as far as our system, E3, our processing system, and the ability for agents to use a check-down box as a response to adding technology to the apprehension and the processing phase.
Yeah.
That has been accomplished and is working well. So they have a drop-down box that has to be checked regarding what technology and other assets, and they can make multiple choices as it relates to the apprehension.
That's great. Mr. Owen, you talked about technology that is maybe on the cutting edge here, the multi-energy system and the NII technology being helpful, but the reality is we still have massive amounts of opioids, synthetic opioids, the hard drugs that are killing Americans right now in a crisis level, coming mostly through the ports of entry. So, what other technologies do we need in order to get what we're missing? I mean, we know what we're getting, but we're obviously missing a lot still because of the epidemic that we have going on in our country. So what else do we need?
Yes, it's very challenging. I mean, clearly they hide in the numbers. 76 million passenger vehicles that crossed the southwest border last year, another 6 million trucks. It's very difficult to inspect all of those, so we rely on intelligence, we rely on our advanced targeting capabilities, the advanced information that we have, and then oftentimes it comes down to the instinct and training of the officers on primary when they just sense something is wrong and they send those individuals. The current fentanyl challenge is compounded by with the two main pathways. We have the fentanyl from China that is primarily entering through the international mail system as well as the express courier hubs, and the volume is just overwhelming in that environment. E-commerce continues to skyrocket. I think we're about 360 million parcels last year and significantly increased this year. So very, very difficult in that environment. And as well as on the southwest border, they hide in the numbers. I think we have very dedicated men and women that use all of the tools that this committee and others have provided us. I think we are effective, but there is stuff that gets through, no doubt.
What's your sense? Actually, I think it's important for people to realize that coming from China through e-commerce, what's your sense of the percentage that's coming through that versus coming up through the border?
I'm not sure I have a percentage. I can tell you, though, that the testing that we've done, the purity of the Chinese fentanyl coming through the mail and through the express is very close to 100%. It is very, very strong, very, very deadly. The purity of the fentanyl coming across the southwest border is much less. Still a very significant threat, but you've got two different challenges that you're dealing with. Hopefully with our engagement with our international partners, we'll see some relief in that area as well.
And thanks for highlighting that. Time's up. Chair, now recognize Mr. Correa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very quickly again to Ms. Gambler, what remains to be done in order for the agency to better measure the effectiveness of its capabilities? Is CBP using all of the tools available in the best way possible, both for border security and measuring performance? And I say that from the following perspective, that we talk about a lot of things we can do at the borders, smart border, inland ports, new technology. That my opening remarks, I talked about some of the agents not being able to talk to each other. They could see each other, but the communication devices weren't effective. And that reminds me of the Grenada invasion, a couple of decades ago. We still have that same situation. Meat and potatoes, basically investing in common everyday technology to make our personnel much more effective. Multi-energy system that you're talking about, Mr. Owen. I took a tour of a San Diego, I'm not going to mention the name, of a manufacturer in San Diego that apparently had deployed some of these systems in the Middle East, not here, but in the Middle East, yet they were able to detect organics of drugs. You actually could drive the trucks through. I believe it was 10 to 20 seconds. They could fully check a truck, and if they saw anything negative, then you pull them over to secondary inspection. So, again, a lot of tools in the toolbox, a lot of technology, yet the meat and potato stuff still needs to be addressed. And that's where I think these matrix of measuring what is most cost effective from the perspective of the taxpayers and public safety is important. And like the chairperson was saying right now you're talking about direct shipments from China, directly through the mail. Is another challenge, and I wouldn't know how to even begin to address that one. But again, these are all the challenges we have to look at, and where do we begin to invest? And I think we got to come back to the matrix. Open statement. Anybody care to address it?
Ranking Member, I would add, from our perspective and what our work has shown, I think there's two, kind of key steps that are part of this process. Is one, that we need to see the department and CBP just set the metrics. We've been recommending metrics in the border security area for several years, and so they actually need to make decisions on what they want to measure and set what those metrics are. And then the second step in that is that CBP collects a lot of data as an agency, and certainly what Chief Luck was describing in terms of them now requiring asset assist information, for example, to be entered into their database, that's a really positive step. But what they need to do now is use the data they have systematically to measure relative to the metrics and goals that they set. So those are really two key fundamental steps that we think are an important part of this and assessing what we're getting out of the investments.
Any other comments from the others? Thank you. Madam Chair, I yield.
Well, I appreciate the gentleman yields back. We were just talking here. I think there is some of the themes here are worth, as we're looking towards a border security bill, to consider working together on some of the integrating technology and increasing situational awareness and the port of entry technology. Those are some of our do-outs that we're going to follow up on as we look to future legislation. I want to thank the witnesses for your valuable testimony. I thought it was a good discussion, and members for the questions. Members of the committee may have some additional questions for the witnesses. I think you also have some that you took for the record as well. We'd ask you to respond to these in writing. Pursuant to Committee Rule 7E, the hearing record will be open for 10 days. Without objection, the committee now stands adjourned.
All right, folks. Hello, my name is Jen. I'm the host of the stream, and we have a bunch of rallies and streams coming up today, so they're all underneath the video. We have President Trump has a joint press briefing with the Lebanese Prime Minister. That's coming up a little bit later on. And then we also have the President and the First Lady. They're going to meet up with veterans, do a speech, That's going to happen right before the Trump rally, the President Trump rally that is happening today. So make sure that you guys join us. We're going to be streaming all day, and I hope that you guys join us and bring people with you and all that good stuff. We have this new thing where underneath the video and also on the chat are links. You know, if you guys can help us out, if you click the link, it will share on Facebook or Twitter, depending if you have either or both of them. And all you have to do is just post or tweet, and it'll do it itself. So if you guys can check it out, you know, and help us out by just clicking those links that we put up on the chat, that'd be great. Thank you very much, everyone. And I hope to see you guys here in just, I think, like 2 hours or so. President Trump is going to have that joint press briefing with the Lebanese Prime Minister. So I hope that you guys join us. If you are new, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you very much, everyone.